Hey guys, so this one is about prioritization. And before I go into product prioritization, I would say that if you look at backlog or the items which are in the backlog of any product item, they can be broadly categorized into three categories. Number one is customer request, any user request which has come in. Number two are metric movers, things which your business cares about, things which are business goals, and you are ideating around it. You are trying to come up with some improvements, and you are trying to launch new features and things like that that will help you kind of improve engagement, revenue, retention, whatever is that. Number three are kind of delighters, things which essentially be looked at something which creates more stickiness in the product, which something which just delights users, which could be very topical in nature as well. And if you look at most of the, you know, product backlog items, they can be kind of, classified in any of these three categories. Now, let's talk about some common prioritization techniques. Number one is impact versus effort, which is kind of pretty um, easy to understand, pretty common, and it's like also cost versus benefit. And then the second one is about importance versus urgency. So anything which could be critical for the business, could be it could be urgent as well. So you can also think about like all the 2x2 metrics where you put importance on one axis and urgency on another axis, and you try to put those kind of items on these metrics and see what do you really want to kind of prioritize. And the third one is RISE, which is R stands for reach, I stands for impact, C stands for confidence, and then R multiplied by I multiplied by C upon E, which is effort. So try to stack rank all the features based on how many number of users are impacted. In fact, in terms of impact, it's just a proxy of how important that particular feature is. And then confidence is that, when you implement it, what do you really understand in terms of anecdotes, in terms of quantitative data, that gives you confidence that it will help you reach that impact. And then upon effort is just to kind of make sure that you prioritize things which are of low effort and high business value. And the next one is about value versus cost of delay. And it's a very kind of easy to understand framework, and it is very relevant framework when it comes to prioritizing tech debt, or a product debt, or maybe a design debt as well. The more you delay, the cost of fixing that particular issue will also increase. So it's a very kind of very easy. It's a very important kind of mental model to keep it in mind. And the next one is strategy, metrics, and tactics. Tactics, and if your organization can really understand it and you can rally all the stakeholders around such kind of model, I think such kind of frameworks are very important, or ways of working are very important. I really like working in that kind of context and that kind of working model, because it helps in organizing everyone and rallying everyone towards a common strategy, and that's where you kind of make sure that the business is aligned towards the strategy, and there is a lot of input that you have already taken. And once you have prioritized, once you have understood the strategy, that what is has to be done at a very high level, then you try to find out a north star metric that will help you achieve that particular kind of metric. So for example, you want to launch carbon offsetting in your a feature in your financial app, and this is a strategic decision. And then you can define a metric around it, that there could be number of transactions happening through the platform, or number of users who are offsetting their kind of number of transactions. So whatever is that metric that you can come up with, and you can align people on that metric, and then you start dividing into certain tactics. Just thinking about certain tactics, and each tactic moves that metric a little bit, and you experiment and see that which tactics are working well, which tactics are not working well, and try to kind of experiment around it. So I have found it very effective when um, you're trying to kind of optimize a particular product towards a certain goal. This framework is very effective. And the next one is about weighted metrics distribution. I have used it in one of the companies very extensively. The challenge there was very competing priorities, so we used to kind of agree on like three big problems that we wanted to solve, and then for all these three kind of big problems that we wanted to solve, we would come up with some metrics that will help us make progress towards those kind of big problems. And then we will also give weightage to those metrics, that maybe 50% of dev and product and design efforts will be invested in moving that particular metric, 30% on this and 20% on this, and make sure that this framework is agreed by kind of stakeholders. And then all these problems that are in your list, try to put them on a spreadsheet. I try to rank them based on the based on, let's say that there are like problem 1, problem 2, problem 3. They will have different impacts on each of these metrics that you have prioritized, and see that what kind of impact it will make. For example, one metric which is like 50% of dev bandwidth has to be given to it, and you think that it will help you kind of make a medium, a low kind of movement to that particular metric, and you can define a number for medium or low, and then multiply 50 percent into that particular number, and try to kind of find a rank for or a weightage metric for that particular problem. And similarly for problem 2 and problem 3, and then try to stack rank them. And then it's a pretty methodical approach, but there is a lot of stakeholder input as well here. And at the end there is a rationality filter as well that we can apply when we look at these ranks. And these ranks and this particular analysis is to make the product management or prioritization as much science as possible. But we also understand that if we just rely on numbers, we can miss a lot of context. We can miss a lot of like anecdotal evidence. So make sure that we apply the rationality filter, and at the end when you are trying to come up with final list of prioritized items that you're going to focus on a particular quarter, make sure that you organize a meeting where you invite all the stakeholders and give them a run through of all these steps that you have taken, and they should agree on it. And even if let's say that this particular list of prioritized item is something that they don't agree with, and there are debates, it might also mean that you will go back to the initial percentage distribution that you have given to certain metrics that you really want to give certain weightage, and you want to change that weightage because it looks like that we won't be able to do everything. So that's a very kind of effective framework that I have found, especially in a very stakeholder driven kind of working environment. The next one is Caro model, which is very important concept. I haven't seen in a lot of places where people apply it, but the way to kind of think about it, that how does it really work, is that on y-axis you got user satisfaction, on x-axis you have full implementation, and there is a curve at the top. There is a line which goes through the origin at 45 degrees, and there is a line which there's a curve which is in your bottom right quadrant. So the bottom right quadrant line represents table stakes. So it doesn't matter how much how well do you really implement it. This is something table stakes. It doesn't your users might not start using your product if you don't have that. And the idea is that you really need to kind of prioritize such kind of features. And it's also one of those features which can never delight your users, but this is something which users will expect, that it has to be there. It has to be there, and your product should have those features. And then the second one, which is kind of a line which passes through origin. These kind of features are the features which you invest, you implement it, and you get some user value out of it, and the satisfaction level of your users increase. So for example, things like the how fast your video is being played, or maybe how fast your transaction is being processed, or things like that. So there could be some things which are in the table stake that it should definitely happen within 3 seconds, and but if it really happens like 2.5 seconds or 1 second, then I think it definitely provides a lot of value. But there's a lot of effort as well that you need to kind of invest. If you really think that that is your kind of there is your kind of competitive advantage, and this is a competitive edge that you really want to build, and that will be kind of barrier of entry for kind of new entrants, then yeah, you invest there. And then the third one, which is at the top, is delighters. So what it really means is that those kind of features which are not table stakes, but if you implement them, it can improve the user satisfaction a lot. It can really delight your users. It can really build the stickiness in your product. It can improve user engagement. It can create the word of mouth that you're looking for. So these are the user delighters. So in the Kano model, it's like table stakes, anything which is pretty neutral but performance driven kind of performance, something which is very similar to performance kind of features. And then delighters, these are like three kind of types of um, different types of product initiatives that you can categorize and you can invest. So yeah, that's pretty much for prioritization.